Episode 102 of the Walking Dead TV podcast. I'm George from Jersey, and I'm joined tonight by Mr. Aaron Neworth, Jim Dietz, and Russell Latham. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
Doing well.
Good.
Welcome to Spaghetti Tuesday, everybody, which will be held on Wednesday.
Yeah, tonight we will be talking Season 4, Episode 5 of The Walking Dead, Internment. Before we do that, Russ, who is our sponsor this week?
Our sponsor for this week's episode of the Walking Dead TV podcast is Discount Comic Book Service. That's DCBService.com, where you can save a ton of money on your comics, graphic novels, various tchotchkes that are geek-related. There's all kinds of cool stuff at DCBService.com or InStockTrades.com. And as we mentioned in the past, DCBS recently acquired the website Tales of Wonder, and so they are working on order fulfillment for Tales of Wonder as well. They've also added some clearance books that you can find on the sites, some books as low as 70 cents a piece. Some highlights for this month of November for Discount Comic Book Service. J. Michael Straczynski, if you're familiar with him from Babylon 5, big-time comic book writer J. Michael Straczynski, he is kicking off a new Twilight Zone series. So Twilight Zone number 1 from J. Michael Straczynski is 50% off this month, making it only $1.99. Bunch of bundles this month too. All new Marvel Now, which is the second round of Marvel Now titles. Single issue bundles, you can get them for 50% off for $31.42 for that whole bundle, which is a really good deal. Vertigo, the DC imprint Vertigo first single issue bundles at 50% off for a total of $10.96. If you're not into the physical books, you can go to DCBService.com, use their Comixology portal, and earn 5% back on your purchases. So again, if you're saving up for that Walking Dead trade or hardcover or omnibus or whatever, and you like the digital side of things, but occasionally like your print, you can order up on the digital side and apply that 5% off to a print volume at some point through DCB Service. On the Walking Dead side, tons of stuff, t-shirts, all kinds of little knickknacks and stuff, as well as the first bi-weekly issues coming out. Walking Dead 119 and 120 are both solicited for November at 40% off, so you can get them for $179 off the regular cover price of $299. And if you haven't ordered from DCB Service in a year, or it's your first time ordering, you can use the code WD8 and get an extra 8% off your order. So we thank them for their support of the Walking Dead TV podcast.
I also want to make sure to mention undeadmousey.co.uk. That's undead, MOUSEY.co.uk. That's one of our listeners, Luke Smith. And Undead Mousey is a special effects company that kind of fills the gap between movie-quality prosthetics and the items you might find in a local fancy dress store or costume shop. It's affordable and easy to apply movie-quality prosthetics. That's, again, undeadmousey.co.uk. He posts a lot of cool stuff on our Facebook group from time to time, and I thought I'd give them this mention. The company is international now, and they're willing to send a lot of their items worldwide. So regardless of where you are, check them out at undeadmousey.co.uk and check out some really cool stuff for next Halloween or just your next zombie run or the next time you really want to be covered in blood and guts, but not the real stuff because, hey, let's face it, that's gross. So, Internment was written by Channing Powell and directed by David Boyd, and this seemed to be mostly a Herschel episode, which was kind of fun. I don't think we've had a Herschel episode before.
Certainly not in full, yeah.
No.
He's always been like a supporting player, but this is like the Herschel Hour, which I was a fan of quite a bit. So.
Yeah.
The Herschel Spaghetti Hour.
I mean, and just as in a general aside about this episode, what a great performance by Scott Wilson through the whole episode. I mean, I don't know, it seemed like an Emmy-level performance to me through this episode.
Yeah, really, sure, I agree.
Really hit a home run with this for me anyway.
If he died in this episode, that would have sealed it for like an actual win of an Emmy, I think.
Or at least a nomination, probably.
Yeah.
Just a really good acting character stuff with him this week. So.
For your consideration.
So we start the episode pretty much exactly where we left off. We've got Rick driving back from the town where he rid himself of Carol. He keeps staring at the watch and back at the road, back and forth. He gets back to the prison and he meets up with Maggie, who's busy clearing walkers away from the fence. As soon as he gets there, he asks about Carl to make sure that Carl and Judith are okay. And Maggie just wants to know, where is Carol? Where is Carol? And at first he avoids it with another question, but she demands he tells her, and he does. He tells her exactly what happened to Carol, why he did what he did, and asks her if she would have done the same. And after she hesitates for a second, she agrees, but she says she doesn't know if she'd actually have the strength to go through with it.
To which Rick replies, yeah, you've had to make harder decisions than that, which I thought was a good line.
That's a good callback, of course, to pivotal things involving Lori. But I like the Rick doesn't have a Rick, I guess he does have some more to do later on in the episode. But I like this early stage where you see him arrive back and he's clearly been thinking about how to address the situation, so he gets kind of a chance to practice with Maggie.
It's funny that one thing I thought of as Rick was pulling back into the compound was, shouldn't they put counterweights on those doors, to make it easier to close them after they've been...
I feel like there's a lot of smart people in that camp that can't seem to figure out how to get fences right, but...
Yeah, and Adam Savage agrees with you.
Okay. Actually, I didn't watch Walking Dead this week, so...
I kept seeing that. I was like, man, if they counterweighted that, they wouldn't have to take so long to close those, big gate doors after somebody comes back in. But anyway.
You know what I do like about the design of those doors, though, is they're quite long, the individual doors, and when they open fully, they press right up into those spikes. So if there were any walkers around the area of the door, which again are pretty long, they would be crushed against the spikes, which would give a pretty decent amount of time to close them back up again. So I agree, weights would probably be a better system, some weights and pulleys and stuff. The way it actually is designed is pretty smart on its own.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think given that, they had a crazy band invade with, grenade launchers and whatnot, they did the best what they can with the materials they have to make something work, I guess.
Right. So Rick heads to the administration building where he meets up with Carl and gives him a bag of fruit leather and tells them to give it to the other people there to make sure they brush their teeth afterwards, which I thought was pretty funny.
There's also that great line with Carl. He's like, Dad, you can't keep me from it. And Rick's like, what do you mean keep you from it? And he goes, how things always end up. And then Rick says, well, it's kind of my job too. And that kind of plays in really well later with what happens with Rick and Carl.
I thought that happened later, but yeah, it was a good scene where it's, maybe I can't, but it's my job to try, and that seems to sum up Rick pretty well.
The Rick stuff happens kind of later too. It's kind of mixed up with the Herschel stuff. It's just in terms of reading one plotline and another, they kind of go in and out in this early part of the episode. But
yeah, there's a lot of intercutting. As usual, the synopsis will probably follow one story and then the other for the most part.
For sure. But I agree, Jim. I think okay, so I agree that the lines are good. I think the actors are good. I think they're doing a good job of kind of playing up this relationship. It's just also, we've seen this a lot. I mean, we're going in circles with the Rick Carl stuff in terms of I need to protect you and hold on to your innocence. I don't know how much innocence he has at this point, but I mean, I want to see them move past this whole, okay, you got your gun back, you use it, I don't know, whatever. Just run in circles with the Rick needs to protect Carl thing.
Aaron, while I do agree with you that we have seen this, circled around a bunch of times, I kind of felt like that by the end of this episode, which we'll get into later, they had kind of closed the door on it pretty well. And maybe this was just one last time to remind you where we had been. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, but it seemed like by the end we probably won't have to deal with that so much more in the future.
I agree with you. I do hope that we move on from here at this point, and given that this is kind of a little mini plot line we've had going with the infection and the Rick taking up being leader type person again, so hopefully we will move on. So yeah, in that regard, yes, if this is a kind of a sign off for that sort of handling of the relationship between Rick and Carl, then I hope so.
This episode in general really felt like the end of chapter 1 of the season. We wrapped up most of the plot lines. I mean, you still have Carol and Daryl to deal with, what happens when Rick tells him, but otherwise this really wrapped up a lot of the plot lines that we've been dealing with so far.
And then at the very end, it definitely teased what probably will be a major thing in the next plot line.
Right, exactly.
It's like we ended a trade of the comic.
Yeah, pretty much. Where everything's not wrapped up in a pretty bow, but it's, I don't want to say bottleneck, because bottleneck sounds bad, but everything kind of came together and it's now going to widen back out again into new threads, I feel. But so we go inside A-Block, which is where the majority of this episode takes place. A-Block, of course, being Death Row, where they have all of the super sick people. And we get a lot of information here pretty quickly. The survivors are having a really hard time, the sick ones, with breathing as their lungs and stuff fill with liquid. So their solution to this, at least a short-term solution, has been to intubate the super sick survivors, which means to force a hollow tube down their throat so they can breathe past all of the mucus and such in their throats, which is gross, but seems to be at least somewhat effective. Not totally, but at least somewhat.
Gross, yeah, got it.
Herschel still seems to be doing pretty well. He's tired, but he does not seem to be sick like everyone else. Sasha is really sick now. Glenn is really sick now. They're helping as much as they can, but they're barely there. Even Dr. Caleb is extremely sick and pretty much tells Herschel, there's nothing you can do for me at this point.
I think it's very interesting that all through this, Herschel is like very working very hard to like keep the killing of the falling flu victims from the others. They're still alive. You know what I mean? Like they don't need to see that. And the lengths that they go to as the episode goes on to keep the group from seeing him off the people that succumb to the flu is kind of staggering. There's a scene later on where Herschel's in the cell block and the guy's laying there and he's by himself. And I thought sure he was going to just do it right there in front of everyone. But I mean, this is where that kind of starts. He's kind of that scene with Glenn and Herschel where they roll the corpse in and Glenn is like, you really haven't stabbed anybody in the head yet, have you? I thought that whole thing of Herschel trying to not only having hope but trying to keep this like veneer of normalcy kind of in this like internal situation.
It's a very grim episode, but I appreciate what Scott Wilson was able to bring to it overall. Which,
oh, yeah.
I mean, given The Walking Dead is a grim show in general, it's nice to have a central performance you can latch onto. And if Rick's not always holding it together, Scott Wilson's been very reliable in these past couple seasons for sure.
Well, and most of this episode really does focus on, like what you guys are saying, it's Herschel trying to, and I can't think of the word I'm thinking of specifically, but he's trying to line up his life before this with his life after the zombie outbreak and trying to make those two things work in a way where he can still be a man of faith. He even says in this episode he still believes there's some plan to all of this with the terrible, horrible things he's having to do and trying to keep that together without letting anyone else see when he does have to, not necessarily stumble, but at least something he might view as a stumble where he has to, commit these horrible acts for the good of the group.
Yeah, he's like literally losing his religion piece by piece.
Right. Reconcile is the word I was trying to think of. He's trying to reconcile those two parts of his life. And, but yeah, I totally see what you're saying, Jim. So, like I said, they find the guy who's dead, and they take him to a different spot to kill him, and Herschel says, or Glenn points out that Herschel really hasn't had to stab anybody in the head yet. And I think what they're saying is that he hasn't had to do it, like, up close and personal, one-on-one. Like, I'm pretty sure we've seen Herschel kill zombies through the fence or something like that. He's worked with the group before, but this is more of a mano-a-mano type killing that they're talking about, I think.
I remember him taking a whole lot of zombies down at the end of season 2 with his infinitely ammoed shotgun.
Right, exactly, yeah. So he's done it before, but there is a difference, definitely. Even, like, Tyrese has talked about it this season, where there's something different when you're just, right up on top of them and killing them versus killing them to survive.
Right.
So Maggie comes to visit Herschel, and again, I really like the use of this room. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but the visitor's room, if you will, where you have that mirror, or not mirror, but that big glass window that gives you some reflection between the two characters and lets the sick people and the infected people talk and hash things out. It's been used now 3 times, I think, or 3 or 4, and it's a really good effect, I think, every time.
I call that the Midnight Express room. I feel like Jim's the only one who'll get that reference, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally did.
Yeah, no, yeah, I get it.
So Maggie wants to know, is Glenn still alive? Is Glenn okay? Is Glenn okay? Are you okay? And Herschel says he's fine. Glenn is resting, but you have to stay out. And when he leaves that room and goes back in, you see that Glenn is not necessarily resting, but it was Glenn who was begging Herschel basically, don't let her come in here. Do not let her get sick. You have to protect her. And Herschel tells him to go rest for a bit.
Yeah, plus he doesn't want her to see him that way. I mean,
Right, exactly.
He's pretty far on in the flu. He's not in good shape by the end of this episode.
So it's right about at this point in the episode where a lot of fecal matter hits a lot of fans more or less at the same time, really effectively, I thought. And, we talked about in prior seasons how the group was getting much better with dealing with problems. So every time they deal with a problem in a really stupid way, yes, it leads to a cool action sequence, but it also is infuriating because we want these characters to be at least competent. And again, this season they've been doing a really good job of finding ways for everything to hit the fan and it not be the survivor's fault. It just be sometimes bad stuff happens and you have to deal with it, and it's nobody's fault necessarily. And that's kind of what we get here. Herschel is going through and closing everyone's cell doors because it's getting really bad and it's getting to be nighttime, so they got to do this. But as he's doing this, a man comes out of one of his cells. He's suffocating from the blood in his lungs. Sasha helps Herschel put him on a bed with wheels, and they try to get him out of there. And he eventually brings that man into another room and has to stab him in the head through a sheet. But he does have to stab him through the head, and this seems to be the first time that Herschel has had to do that on his own.
This is when the music starts to play as well, correct? Yeah, like right before that. And,
sounds about right.
Yeah, it's like when you get that cool shot of Herschel kind of on the ground with the guy, and it kind of moves up. You see everyone else in the prison seeing all this taking place, and it's a mix of just really cool filmmaking with good use of sound and score, not score, music track, and I like how that kind of played all together.
Right.
It was definitely different. We haven't really seen where there's music track in the middle.
Yeah, we don't.
Not too often, no.
Yeah, the show doesn't utilize kind of source music very often. It goes on Bear McCreary's score, which is like pretty consistent. But when they do choose music, I tend to like it. Like we used it on the show, obviously. So,
right. But it does tend to be at the very end of the episode
yeah,
if they're going to do it. That kind of Grey's Anatomy feel.
Usually closes it out.
So when Herschel comes back to the cell block, he continues to close cell doors, and he sees one where one of the patients, one of the people in the prison has died, but is not yet fully turned, does not come back. And he's about to deal with that when he sees that Sasha has passed out. So he runs in to help her, and it seems she's mostly just dehydrated, so he revives her, and they have a little bit of a talk. And he goes to close more cell doors, and we see that zombie he had passed by a few minutes ago because he had to deal with Sasha. Now it's on the move. He goes past one cell where there's a father and son, and the son is passed out, and the father says that the son is fine, he's fine, keep going about your business. Herschel wants to come in and check on him, but the dad says no, and he closes the door and locks it. Then we have that guy who they had intubated in the beginning of the episode, and Glenn had been sitting there with the I don't know what you call that, but the hand-activated pump that pumps air into the lungs. It's kind of a bag that inflates and deflates. Glenn's been sitting there pumping every 5 or 6 seconds for a while. Him and Sasha have been taking turns, but the man dies, and Glenn goes to call for help, and at that moment he starts choking on his own blood, and he passes out on the floor.
I never suspected that Glenn would die in this episode, but that was pretty effective in terms of adding to the drama that's going on.
Right.
It definitely seemed like he could have died.
There was a lot of moments in this episode where it felt like a lot of people could have died.
Well, that's true.
But yes, definitely him. And it was one of those things where I was going, no, don't let him go out like that. It's kind of a chump's death, but at the same time, I mean, theoretically, it's better that he would die this way where there's nothing he could do versus he gets sloppy and a zombie grabs him from behind and bites him or something. At least it's a neutral death as opposed to a good or a bad one.
Fair.
I still wouldn't have been thrilled, but it would be better than something stupid like that. So Lizzie, remember her, she finds Glenn passed out on the ground as the zombie starts to reanimate, so she calls for help, and that gets the attention of the female walker that Herschel had passed by in the cell. So that zombie walks out and jumps on Herschel, pins him to the ground. The dad with the son opens up his cell, and he's got a gun, and he's going to kill the zombie who's on Herschel. But then his son, who turns out had died, the dad was lying, comes out of the cell and follows him. We've got another woman who comes to the rescue, and she pulls the walker off of Herschel. But then the son zombie bites the dad holding the gun shoots the woman and kills her. Everybody starts hearing gunshots outside, and Maggie and Rick are working on fortifying the fence, and Rick sends her in to go check on the cell block while he continues to work on the fence because the fence keeps getting worse and worse. At that same time, Lizzie is still leading the walker away from Glenn when Maggie comes in and tries to get into the door. I really like the scene. She's got a fire axe, and you've got this heavily fortified prison door, and she knows it's futile, but she just keeps hitting it with the axe until the axe gets stuck in the door, and then the handle breaks off.
It was kind of like, I get it. I get like what Maggie's reactions are. Emotions are high and drama's everywhere, action's going on. It was still frustrating to see someone try to do this. Like, no, that you can't get in with an axe. So,
yeah, but what else is she going to do? And, I mean, until she thinks of another solution, but, she's panicking at that point.
I know. It was just a case of me yelling at the TV. Like, what's that going to do? Come on.
Well, I thought she might at least be able to take out the glass and get to the handle or something.
When
but
she got
no
stuck,
dice.
when she got stuck in the door, that's when I started yelling. Actually, it's like, well, now you don't have an axe. Like, so there you go.
So Lizzie continues to lead the walker away from Glenn. Like I said, Maggie gets there and tries to get to the door. She can't. Herschel gets up. He runs towards Lizzie because she's leading the zombie, kind of like a dog, kind of come here boy type thing. He gets up to the top level where she is, but she trips. The zombie's on top of her. Herschel grabs the zombie and throws him over a catwalk. Some nice stunts there from Herschel. He puts Lizzie in Luke's cell. I don't know if we've seen Luke before. We probably have. I didn't get his name before anyway. But he puts him there, tells him to stay put, and then he goes to Dr. Caleb's cell because Dr. Caleb had previously shown him that he had a shotgun and some extra rounds. But when he gets to the cell, Dr. Caleb has already died. He's a zombie, so Herschel has to kill another zombie with a knife to the head.
First,
He goes in.
hold on. First, he breaks his arm in the cell. Then he
Oh yeah, that was
stabs
cool.
his face.
I'm surprised we haven't seen that before. Honestly, it was one of those things where I saw it where I went, "Well, that's smart. Why didn't they do that earlier?" At any point.
That was a good whole horror moment in general because like he just first he like shocks you by jumping out at Herschel, and then Herschel's like, "Oh, what do I do?" And he breaks his damn arm in the door and stabs him in the face. It's like, "Oh, there goes my friend."
Right. So he gets in there after killing Dr. Caleb. He grabs the gun and some extra shells. And also, interestingly, he takes his Bible at that point and he drops that on the bed. I think the Bible maybe was in his pocket or something, but he replaces his Bible with the gun, which is, of course, a big visual theme for the episode is him with weapons or the Bible. Which one is he going to grab?
It's like watching Harvey Keitel from Dusk Till Dawn. Taking it.
Yeah, I can buy that. Yeah, I need to rewatch that movie. I haven't seen that in a while.
I love that one of my favorite movies.
It's a lot of fun.
For the Cheech Marin, Barker pitch alone, that movie is
I do so down to do a WGTV commentary for Dusk Till Dawn. Backing up a little bit, there was a commercial break with Lizzie leading that zombie like out by like a dog, and then it comes back and Herschel's like we're running after the zombie, like get away from Lizzie. I completely thought when Herschel threw that zombie over, he was gonna like fall like onto his head and like smash it open, but it just fell into a chain link fence, and I was like, oh, that's pretty anticlimactic, but it pays off later, so whatever.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't even know why would you have that chain link there. I'm sure it's a real thing from prisons. I just don't know what purpose it really serves.
So somebody doesn't body slam somebody from the top level down onto the hard concrete floor.
Oh,
Exactly,
that
yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, or try to commit suicide by jumping.
But like,
I guess,
I still thought that when Herschel threw him over, it was like, oh, he's gonna like fall, his head's gonna smash open. That didn't happen whatsoever. So I was like, oh, that's all right.
And we should mention this zombie again. This is the one who was intubated, so he's still got the tube down his throat and the air pump bag locked around his face, kind of like a gag almost. But he's got this for the whole time, which makes him a really distinct and creepy, weird-looking zombie.
Yeah, baghead.
back face.
So there's a couple more zombies still going around through the prison, and Herschel's got to deal with them. But we talked about this earlier, he doesn't want to kill the zombies in front of people if he can help it. So even though he's got the shotgun and 3 zombies bearing down on him, he keeps backing up. And he kind of pulls a Lizzie, except for the tripping part, and walks backwards, leading them towards him, kind of banging and making noise on purpose to lead them on. Takes them around a corner, and we see from off camera as he kills all 3 of the zombies.
The only thing that could have been cooler than that is if Scott Wilson also had a chainsaw and started saying groovy.
He pulls up his pant leg, and we see he doesn't really have a fake leg. He's got a chainsaw attached to him there.
That exact example, yes.
Hail to the king, baby.
Yeah.
Which I guess I did more as Duke Nukem than as Ash, but hey, it's the same reference. And I really like, we talked about this again in previous episodes, but they've been using visual restraint this season, which is something new for the show. Like when they had the Scottish woman or the Irish woman out in the forest and we don't see the head in the bag, or in this case where Herschel kills the 3 zombies and he kills them off screen and we know it's happening, but we don't need to see it. And it's nice that they are occasionally taking that tact.
In terms of visual communication, I agree with you, yes. I think some of the themes are still very heavily visualized, but in terms of letting an audience figure things out for themselves, I think it's done a very good job of not spelling it out for you.
Agreed. I mean, things like the Bible that I talked about before,
Yeah,
very clear.
yes.
Oh, he's taking his Bible and replacing it with a gun. This will be important, but still used effectively if heavy-handed. It's an AMC tradition. Mad Men does the same thing.
Just visual shorthand,
Yes. So after Herschel kills those 3 zombies, he knows that Glenn is still suffocating in his cell, and he keeps running in between all these actions he's taking. He keeps running back over to Glenn and flipping on his side to clear out his airway as best as possible. By this time, Maggie has made it inside the cell block because she found the room with the glass window and she busted through it by shooting it. So bye glass window scenes, but it was nice while they lasted. Herschel runs over to the zombie with the bag in his mouth. Apparently, it's called an ambu bag, AMBU, according to Wikipedia. Anyway, he realizes that they need that to help Glenn, so he climbs up to the zombie and he starts to try to wrestle it for the bag. And Maggie's got her gun trained on the zombie and he tells her, wait, because you can't shoot him because you might puncture the bag. But she eventually takes the shot anyway and misses the bag, but kills the zombie, which is exactly what she wanted to do.
She takes like kind of a Murtaugh, roll her head, look at the shot really carefully,
Yeah.
and shoot.
But I like the touch of her taking a second, and even though Herschel was telling her not to, and it potentially could have meant that Glenn would have died or been in real trouble, she took. It was almost like she took the sure thing. She's like, okay, I know if I don't shoot him, my father is going to die. Even if they use the bag on Glenn, he may not live. So it's almost like she was just kind of weighing her options and being practical about the whole thing. But yet at the same, and at the same time, you can tell it was weighing heavy on her. It just wasn't something she did lightly.
Manual resuscitator. That's the other name for the ambu bag.
Oh, that works. Okay.
A bag valve mask is what.
Take the shot.
Yeah. In my ECA class, that's what we called it.
Cool.
Good. So they get the bag off the zombie, they go over to Glenn, and before we get into a long, protracted discussion about germs and such, because I've seen people have this, you can see in one shot very clearly that Herschel has a bottle of rubbing alcohol with him before they intubate Glenn, and they also had previously set up in the episode that Dr. Caleb had set up multiple tubes. So they cleaned the bag and they used a different tube. I think you even see Herschel taking it a second. Opening it. So they did not use the same bag and tube on Glenn that they just pulled out of the zombie's throat. Even they were not that dumb. They did show you in the episode that's not what happened.
Yeah, that's one of the things on The Walking Dead. They were like, or The Talking Dead rather. They were like, oh, they just reused all that stuff, and then they made the point of, well, they're all infected anyway with the whatever zombie virus this is. And I was like, no, clearly he had another breathing mask or another one-way valve apparatus that he opened up out of the bag and attached to the breathing bag. So yeah, I guess it just kind of it wasn't completely clear, but to me it was clear enough to me.
To resuscitate Glenn and help him breathe again. We don't see him ambulatory by the end of the episode, right? He's still in pretty bad condition, but at least he's alive.
We're just given the it's okay, Glenn breathing on his own now kind of speech. We don't really see him
Right.
Herschel tells Daryl that right before he tells Daryl to ask Rick if he wants to know what happened to Carol.
Right. So speaking of Rick and Daryl and all those, while all this is going on, we keep cutting back and forth to the other major calamity that's happening while everyone's being shot, stabbed, or turned into zombies in the cell block. And that is after Rick sends Maggie in to help her father and everybody and check on the gunshot that they had heard at that point, rather. Rick gets Carl to come help him, and Rick and Carl are kind of bonding over helping to rig up the fence, and they're kind of sharing a nice moment of, hey, we're working really well together, and isn't this great, right before the braces they put up against the fence start to fail, and the fence comes down, and so their pride quickly turns into a fall, as it's apt to do, and they have to start running for their lives past some zombies that are coming in all around them, into one of the buildings, and then to their weapons as quickly as possible.
in case you didn't get it, the walls are literally falling down around Rick.
Yeah, I don't know that I'd say that's a heavy-handed visual metaphor so much as walls literally falling down around him because people were pushing on them.
It's what I saw it as. But
I get you. I get you. I mean, I try not to cut too much or too little slack, but this is one of those cases where I feel like, or slack with the show, but I feel like this wasn't them trying to make a grand point so much as it was cool zombie stuff. But who knows? They make it into one building, and then they come out the other side to go grab some assault rifles. As the zombies come around another side of the fence and start pushing through there, and Rick gives Carl a crash course in how to fire an assault rifle, which Carl picks up very quickly.
Very quickly, yes.
Yeah, and apparently, even though there was some recoil with that gun, Carl has the calves of an Olympic runner because he is able to brace himself amazingly well with that. But that aside,
Yeah.
It's like there were like 2 Modern Warfares and 2 like one Black Ops game before the Walking Dead outbreak. Happened. So he's probably got it.
Not that would actually prepare you for using a real gun, but that's anyway. I say this as a person who's got a lot of experience with guns. They're fun. Be careful with them, kids. In fact, kids, don't even touch them.
I'm hoping someone on the internet takes that scene with the two of them with the assault rifles and cuts in Harry Chapin's Cats in the Cradle.
Somebody else made a comment. Who was that?
Oh, really? I just thought about it.
Somebody called it the Rick and Carl Cats in the Cradle moment.
Yeah, it's like, I just could totally see that. That'd be hilarious.
I'm waiting for some cover box art that says Call of Duty on it with him just holding the assault rifle.
Walking Dead TV listeners on the Facebook group, get on it.
Make this
Better
happen.
that stuff in here. So we cut back and forth to them several times, but they do an incredibly good job of just basically standing there, firing round after round after round, killing, I'd say about 50 to 100 zombies that are just keep coming and coming and coming.
They were literally
And they take them
ankle deep in zombies. So.
Well, by the the last time we cut over to them, they are going through with pikes and basically just manually taking out the last few zombies who have been mowed down but aren't quite destroyed yet. And it's a nice bonding moment between Rick and Carl. By the end of it, they're kind of on, hey, we work well together as equals, as adults, and we did good work here, which I was happy to see.
I was happy to see it in terms of like, hey, look how great we are together as a team fighting against the evil walkers. It wasn't that interesting to me overall in terms of just a scene of a television show, like seeing it repeatedly, like getting the idea of what's going on. I was happy, and then we kept showing it because you have to, because you're showing all the zombie action that's going on everywhere in the prison. And it's like no one's safe. What's going on? But overall, it's like yeah, all right, that happened.
I just hope it kind of goes like you were saying before. I mean, we've seen it over and over about I'm old enough to do this, Dad. No, you're not. I'm old enough to deal with this. No, you're not. I hope this kind of like puts a lid on that. I mean, they stood side by side with assault rifles and killed dozens and dozens of zombies together. I hope it just kind of like closes the book on that, and maybe they can move on now without that storyline hanging coming through every so often. You do something else with Carl.
It's building to kind of my overall thoughts on the episode, where it's just like I'm fine with it. Like I think it was a very exciting episode to watch for sure. There's nothing that can say otherwise because I think it does do a good job of showing you the action, which the show always knows how to do. When it comes to the action scenes, I never question the skills of the Walking Dead being able to handle it. It's just like we've been able to speed through the synopsis pretty quickly just because that's a lot of this episode, and that's not inherently interesting to me as a television show in terms of characters and story and stuff. And yeah, you need this kind of episode every now and then, but it's just one that doesn't stick out to me as like super memorable. Just besides the fact that I got to see Herschel kick some ass this episode. But beyond that, just like yeah, that's kind of this episode. It's like okay, this is the episode where Herschel kicked ass. Does that make the best episode ever? Not necessarily, but I still enjoyed watching it.
Hey, a one-legged man who managed to kick ass is pretty kick ass.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's just like just recall like Days Gone By, the pilot, where you're like this is the show, yeah, and then Guts was next week. And Guts is a fight episode. It's just it was like the episode that everyone that wanted to see zombie action got, and like that's kind of the feeling I got from this episode. It was like this is the big zombie action episode. So yeah, here we go, let's do this.
So to close out the episode, the van with Daryl, Tyrese, Michonne, and Bob finally gets back to the prison right after Rick and Carl have just finished mopping up the zombies, so they go over to open up the gate, and that group rushes in to go bring the medicine to the sick people, and we have a few montage scenes of them crushing up the pills and such, and mixing with water and putting them into IV bags and all that kind of stuff. Tyrese gets to meet up with his sister again, and Bob helps with the administration of the drugs to Glenn and to others. And outside, we cut the next morning to a singular figure looking upon the prison, and it's none other than the governor.
Dun dun dun. Sorry.
And that is internment.
We missed the like Rick and Carl go and pick peas in the farm.
Oh yeah, that's right. They have a nice little return to farming moment, and Rick let him sleep in.
Yeah, and Jim mentioned like Herschel tells Daryl to go talk to Rick about what happened with Carol.
Yeah, we don't actually see that confrontation in this episode. That's like the one main story thread from the first part of the season that's kind of not fully resolved. But yep, still hanging above everybody's heads there. What is Daryl going to do, and what is Tyrese going to do?
Yeah, I hope that episode's called Two Angry Men.
It's not. I can see what the next episode is titled, but that would be funny.
Well, next week's like the governor show or whatever. Then the week after, can maybe get the.
Well, I mean, let's go into that before we get to ratings and all that kind of stuff. We've now seen the governor for the first time this season. It took us 5 episodes. Do we see him? Oh, we know from the previews of next week. I'm not spoiling anything, but he's in the previews. I'm not interacting with any of our characters. It's just one scene we see. But aside from that, do you think the governor interacts with the prison next week, or do you think they leave us on a little bit until like the mid-season finale or something?
I think that's the case. I think we just like it's just more for people that aren't like obsessively talking about The Walking Dead like we are, for example. I think this is just more like, hey, remember that guy? He's still around.
Yeah, I think next week's episode is going to be, and regardless of any previews or anything, I think this is going to be what's the governor been up to for the last 6 months?
I agree completely. I think it's going to be almost entirely flashback showing you where he's been.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, I actually think that would be kind of cool. But
I hope so. Yeah.
If it's just like moments from the last 9 months.
For sure. I was kind of hoping that when we saw the governor, he'd be all shaggy haired and more comic governor, but he looks the same. So good for him. Good on you for shaving.
That's true. Although if they do a long period episode, or an episode that covers a long period of time, maybe he will start looking that way, get more scruffy towards the middle, and by the end he will clean himself up right before he ends up back at the prison.
See, that's already 4 busters guaranteed if that happens.
What if it's a bad wig?
I might be my rare 375.
Negative 0.25 for a bad wig.
So do we think that the governor is the one that's been feeding the walkers and doing all that other stuff?
I mean, if he was, he'd have to get on the other side of the prison fence, which is not impossible. They just have carabiners holding it together in some places. But I don't want to believe, but at the same time, I want to believe there's an inside man at the prison or an inside woman who's been helping him, because that's more interesting than just him coming in and climbing over the fence every once in a while to drop rats off.
There's like a double edge to that, because I like that idea too, Jordan. I really would. But it's like, then it's like, oh, by the way, if there's some character you've never seen before, he's had to be a double agent the whole time, or whatnot.
Well, you're assuming it's someone we've never seen.
I get that, but I feel it comes with having to wait to see what actually happens. But I could, if that was the case, I could already feel like I'd be complaining about the seeds not really be properly being set for some occurring character that we all knew about being the one that's been helping assisting the governor the whole time. Like the same thing. It's kind of like the Carol thing, where I appreciate what they did with Carol, and last week was a great step in like making me just like where they took her all around. But the lead up to that I thought was clunky. So I feel like if that was the case with the governor, it'd probably be clunky. I'd probably be saying the same thing again. But we'll see. I mean, in theory, I like the idea. But,
okay, give me another predictive amount of busters for the episode where they reveal that it's been Rick, the inside man.
Rick, the inside man. If it was Rick the entire time, that's 17 busters right there.
Lori told me to do it. Lori told me to do it. I still see her.
So let's get to our Buster ratings, gentlemen. Let's go in alphabetical order. So Aaron, what did you think of this episode?
I give it a 3.5 Busters. I mean, Scott Wilson was tremendous in this episode. I think he did a fantastic job kind of leading it for the most part. It's a very action-heavy episode, and while the character stuff with Herschel was solid, it's just like not one that's going to kind of stick with me. It's just more like, hey, that was exciting. Okay, let's move on.
I give it a 4 out of 5 Busters because of the Scott Wilson performance this episode. I mean, I really thought it was like Emmy quality, high caliber acting, and I thought he did a great job. I thought he totally killed it. So 4 out of 5 for me for this episode. Like I said, a lot of good character stuff, and that scene with Rick and Carl at the end was like one of the most. It just reminded me of the Rick and Carl from the comics that I knew and loved. So definitely 4 out of 5 for me.
I also give it 4 out of 5. I thought it was a fine episode. Definitely Scott Wilson stuff was fantastic, but it wasn't my favorite episode ever. But it was by no means low on the totem pole. So I was really happy with it.
Well, I'm going to be the odd man out, although not completely, just out of us four, because I'm pretty sure Brad Milo agrees with me from what I saw on his Facebook feed. But I'm going to give this episode a 5, and that may be surprising, but for me, nothing in this episode fell flat. I enjoyed everything on screen. There was nothing that I went, I would have done it this way, or really going to make that decision. I was happy with everything that happened on screen. I really liked how they balanced character and action with both the Herschel and the Carl/Rick storylines. Did it do anything particularly groundbreaking? No, but at the same time, like again, there's nothing in this episode that I questioned or had a problem with. Every single element of it worked for me, and if that's not worth a 5, I don't know what is. So I'm giving it 5 out of 5.
You're talking about Brad Jordan, and I think he today said it was like his favorite episode of the series. Like,
right?
so
Yeah,
far.
that's what I saw.
Yeah, and he felt it didn't fall flat anywhere. That everything was just top notch. So I thought that's pretty bold. Because I know Brad's kind of goes up and down on the show, like we all do, but maybe a little more ups and downs than some of us. So it was, even though I didn't share his opinion, I thought that was a good sign that he was that happy with the episode.
In the moment, I did. I was certainly excited about this episode. It didn't let me down necessarily. It's just like if I had to give a number to it, that's the one I associate with it. But I mean, I was certainly all on board with the excitement factor.
And that's fair enough. It's all subjective. Our rating.
Oh yeah, for sure. And like in hindsight, like it might rate differently at the end of the season versus how it does now. It's just more of like I watched it twice before I started writing about it. We should find my written write-up at hhwle.com. But like it's just like, all right, I'm getting this ability, and I had to associate some rating, and that's kind of where I landed. But I was on the edge of my seat watching my friends all yelling at the TV. It's a lot of fun. Good ending, but we didn't talk about the ending. Like Herschel's just such a badass, and everyone like basically rewards him for being Like Daryl's like, you're some bitch, and he's like, I am.
Damn right.
And Michelle's like, want to go for a ride? He's like, hell yeah! Like it's just like the Herschel like wins.
Gonna go get ice cream? Sure.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Aaron, because I think that was my favorite. That was probably my favorite Herschel bit, maybe of the entire series. Just Herschel's always fairly humble, and he can be assertive when we want. I mean, we've seen him be assertive with Rick, and kind of telling the man up and get his get his stuff together. But for Daryl to kind of say that to him, and he's like, yes, I am, just like that confidence, and then for him to again respond the same way to Michelle, and I just got the biggest kick out of that. It was just like unexpected and just heartwarming. At the same time, I thought it was fantastic.
It's the kind of thing where among the comic changes, because Herschel's very much not like his comic counterpart. I'm very much liking the take that Scott Wilson and the writers have done for Herschel as opposed to where he was in the comic, which was different than this.
I totally agree.
So Jim, what did our listeners on Facebook think of the episode?
Well, we have a very active Facebook group at the Walking Dead TV Podcast on Facebook. We definitely suggest you join us. We have a lot of cool members. We have a lot of people who post things and links to their other podcasts and news items, and it's a good place to always find what Aaron has been writing lately or what have you. We got a lot of really good comments on this. As you mentioned earlier, our charter member, our godfather, as you will, if you want to make an old school reference, Brad Milo, says this episode gets my highest rating ever. I think that would make it a 6 or 7 on a scale of 5. A flawless episode, in my opinion. Brent McCurry's score was his best work to date on the series. I was figuratively on the edge of my seat the whole time, and I honestly expected Glenn to bite it. That's a pun. The end shot was just icing on the cake. A lot of other people I could have sent it to about thinking this is a really great episode. 5 out of 5 from Brian Arnold. 5 out of 5 heroic Herschels. 5 faulty fences out of 5 from the omnipresent Mike Jones. Everard Santamarigas at 3.7. 5 out of 5 endless M16 magazines. My least favorite episode of the season, but still had a lot of good in it. Michael Santana gave 5 peeping Tom Governors out of 5. This episode had it all: action, tension, character development, and a heaping helping of despair. The team is hitting the stride. I'm loving it. Donnie Salvo, my good podcasting buddy, goes at 4.5 Rainbow Carls. That's pretty funny. Don Heffern 4.5 Tough Son of Bitches. I agree with this being the best episode so far this season. Brent Frederick 4.5 Peapod moments with Carl out of 5. Finally, a great episode of The Walking Dead season 4. The scenes where Herschel is so selfless looking out for all the flu victims pulled at my heartstrings. 4.75 Spaghetti Wednesdays from Mary Terpecchia. 5 out of 5 from Newton Knight. 4.75 Little Girls Playing in Bloody Mucus out of 5 from Leslie Johnson. It's not a 5 for 5 out of me because Daryl didn't find out about Carol, and I have to watch with a medical professional who always has to ruin things like the intubation. 3 out of 5 red shirts from Robert Negro. Sarah Ann Howard chimed in as well. Belinda Clark 4 shut the damn cell doors out of 5. That is a good point. Luke Smith FX 4.5 out of 5. Great episode. Loving that the governor's back, but intrigued as to why the hell he's so well kept. Could there be a second Wilbert Woodbury out there? Shane Jenkins 4.99 Herschel's jogging up the stairs out of 5. He did seem pretty spry for a guy who's missing part of his leg. Roger Austin 5 creepy eye patches out of 5. Best episode of the season so far. And finally Jimmy Tucker 4.75 fruit leathers out of 5. Loved heroic Herschel this episode, and there was a real sense of dread that some of these survivors weren't going to make it. Glad the governor showed up at the end. Pretty positive too on the return of the governor. I guess people aren't thinking it's too soon or whatever. They're happy to see a new villain other than an infection and a flu. So as I said, if you want to join us at our Facebook group, it's the Walking Dead TV Podcast Facebook group, and it's a pretty active community, and we definitely invite you to join it.
Thank you very much, Jim. So at this point, Aaron, I hear you have to say goodbye to us for the week. Why don't you explain why that is?
I gotta go because I'm running out of time right now, but this is gonna be my last episode for a couple weeks. I am actually going on vacation to South Africa for 2 weeks and quite excited about it. But I'll probably get one more write-up in before I leave, but beyond that, I'll be back. I guess probably the episode, like the mid-season finale episode, I can probably be back by that time and tell you about the wilds of Africa, but for now I'm gonna have to sign off here.
And is it too early to announce that you will be starring in the sequel to District 9?
We're in the works. We're in the works on things. Me and Charlton, we're hashing out some scenes, but we'll see. I'll let you guys know.
Diplomatic immunity.
Thank you.
Well, as usual, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show, Aaron, and we hope you have a great vacation, safe travels, and that you get back soon.
Yeah, great. Thanks, guys. And always happy to be on here, and hope the next episode's really good.
All right, have a good one, Aaron.
Okay.
So that's it for this week's episode. It's a little bit shorter than normal, but hey, last week we gave you a really long episode, so don't complain. It's free. We work hard on this. But we're going to close things out now, give you, of course, the normal closing out stuff, and then after that, we'll go into our preview for next week, which will have minor spoilers, as usual, and I believe Russ has some information for us as well beyond the normal stuff. So, until next time, if you would like to send us an email, you can do so, comments@walkingdeadtv.com, and if you'd like to leave us a voicemail, voicemail land's still not up, but you can record an MP3 or an OGG or any type of audio format, and you can email us that fake voicemail to comments@walkingdeadtv.com as well. Check out hhwlod.com and walkingdeadtv.com for all of our great shows like Half Hour Wasted, The Long Box of Doom, The Black Box out now, our brand new shows, Jersey Shore, which is mine, and the Ichabod Cranecast, which is Aaron's other show, where he talks about Sleepy Hollow on Fox. And of course, you can also check out our Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast, where we talk about Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Russ is on that one. You can hear Johnny on that one occasionally, and Brad Milo as well. So it's a fun show to be sure. I just listened to the newest episode today, right before I got home. And you can follow us on Twitter @WDTV Podcast and @HHWLOD_network. I'm @JordanFRM Jersey. Jim is @Yoda Jones. Russ is @R Latham. And Aaron is @Aaron's PS3. You never know, maybe he'll tweet some stuff about his vacation. So be sure to follow him. And of course, every week, except maybe not in 2 weeks, you can check out his written text reviews of The Walking Dead on hhwlod.com and walkingdeadtv.com, and they're always awesome. So you should check them out. And so until there's no more room left in hell and Dead Walk the Earth, remember, dental hygiene is imperative. So even in the zombie apocalypse, kids, remember to brush your teeth. And have a good week, everybody.
Fruit leather does stick to your teeth. Rick has a very good point.
And next week on The Walking Dead, our episode will be entitled, remember, minor spoilers here, so if you don't want to hear them, cut out now. We'll talk to you next time. Next week's episode, episode 406, is entitled Live Bait. And the synopsis we have from AMC is, a familiar face returns as the group members struggle to find humanity in a world of constant threats. So basically the entire premise of the show, plus the governor's back.
A whole lot of words to say, a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah. So Russ, you said you had some other information for us as well, so spill the details.
Did either of you guys watch Talking Dead this week?
I did. I thought Adam Savage was awesome, and Breckin Meyer talked a little bit too much, but by the end they worked out the dynamic pretty well.
So there was a bit, it wasn't the next week, you know how they do the scenes from next week, and this one showed that zombie walking up to the governor, and then she basically just walks right into the bright light and catches fire, and he's completely unfazed. But there was another scene, and I forget what the terminology they put on that cover over the screen with it. Was like prey. It says like prey, like Prey, and is it like, I can't remember the exact term. Anyway, it shows the group around the bonfire of dead zombies, and I would swear that Carol was standing right next to, I think it was Rick in there, and it seemed like it was from an upcoming episode, not a previous episode.
Interesting.
I need to go back and watch it. It was really hard to make out, but it was like somebody with very short hair with gray short hair. It looked exactly like Carol. So I don't know if, and it seemed like it would have to be somewhat current because it looked like they were burning the bodies, instead of burying them because of the flu or whatever. So
we may have some inadvertent information that Carol will be back sooner than we thought.
Yeah. So and like I said, I need to go back and watch it again, but I swear that that's on there. So if anybody caught that and wants to put that up on the Facebook group or school me, I would be happy to be schooled because I don't want to give up poor information. But I was just curious if anybody else caught that.
Question for you guys before we close this one out. We talked about whether next week's episode will be a flashback with the governor, what it will entail, but let's skip right past that and jump to another prediction. How many people do we think the governor has in his, I don't know if employee is the right word, but how many people is the governor traveling with and working with right now? What do we want to guess? Do we want to guess it's just the 2 guys he left with last time? Does he have a whole army, a whole town? What are we thinking in terms of his access to resources?
Well, it's kind of a cheat because we saw in that scene there were 3 tents. So
but we don't know when that scene takes place. Is it that night or is it 6 months ago?
Well, it's true. That's a good point. I think one of 2 things. Either he's by himself or he still has those 2 knuckleheads with him.
Schubert and the bowman, I think they were called?
Sure.
Or Rodriguez and Schubert? I think Schubert was the bowman.
Even the governor has a posse.
But how big do we think it is? Is he a legitimate threat in terms of numbers or just in terms of cunning and evil?
The latter.
I think it's just probably the 2 guys. Couldn't see it being much more than that if it was just them on the run and tents and whatnot.
Fair enough. Well, we will hopefully find out next week. But until then, I'm Jordan from Jersey.